This video is brought to you with the compliments of the Sanlam Foundation, working together with the Rhodes Business School. What we're looking at here is how do I finance and pay for my postgraduate studies? And we want to find a way that makes it more tax efficient and affordable. The big thing about it is after graduation, you've got a job. And maybe somebody's prepared to put some money behind you now because you've proved your point that you're a graduate worth sponsoring. Now, you might have seen the movie Fame and enjoyed it, but there was a great line there. They said, they've got what it takes, but it will take everything they've got. And that applies to postgraduate studies. It's a huge investment. And the problem is the investment is not only financial, it's also personal, taking up your personal life after you've left university. And this often deters people, and it's again a reason why postgraduate studies should be sponsored, subsidized, loaned, whatever, and give you a better deal. Here's some ideas. A university's finances consist of government subsidies, the fees from the students, and donor funding. And all of these funds are at present limited. And this is what makes it very competitive when one is looking to get subsidies and bursaries for postgraduate studies. There are problems. Government subsidies are limited. There's only so much the Department of Education can spend. Donor funding is not normally given for bursaries other than the donor's own staff, etc. And what we get with that is that donors want to spend their money today on corporate social investment projects and principles, on bricks and mortar at universities that last longer than a single student, on research for new ideas and developments. They also want tax deductions on their donations. And the problem is that those donations cannot be tax deductible if they have earmarked a student to whom the bursary is to be granted. So what we have to look at it and say, let's be a little bit clever now and look for something else in the Income Tax Act. Believe it or not, the Income Tax Act does provide a further concession. And this is where we can look at donor funding on another principle. We can change that to employer funding. Watch me now and see how this goes in the structuring of student fees for postgraduate qualification. Now, when you start working, you will become liable to payment of tax, and the 2013 tax tables will show you that in the income category up to 250,000, South Africans don't pay much tax. Tax starts to hurt when you get in the category above 250,000 and really hurt when one gets to income of over R500,000 or so. The problem with graduates is that they immediately pick up a tax problem because they start exceeding the 250,000 rands earnings per annum. And very quickly, we hope, go into the category above 484,000 rand per annum. But that puts you into the level where a structured employment package is quite useful. So, if you go out and earn 325,000 rands per year, the tax per tables will be 73,800 rand. You will then have a rebate deducted, that's your general tax rebate, leaving you with a tax liability of 62,000 rand per year. Your take home before other deductions will be 262,640. If you then want to go and pay for your postgraduate studies, you're going to lose another 40,000 rands per year, taking it to your after tax and studies take home of 222,000 rand. You've lost nearly a third of your salary and you're still studying. But what about this? Let's change it around and say, I'll go to my employer and say, I have got a cost to company package of 325,000 rand. I would like that restructured to give me a bursary to continue my postgraduate studies of 40,000 rand per year. That leaves me with 285,000 remaining. We work out the tax on 285,000, which is now 61,800, less the rebate gives you a reduced tax liability of 50,360. Your take home is then 274,640, less 40,000 rands of study fees, which you're going to have to pay, giving you a remainder of 234,000 take home, 12,000 rand better off than you were before, and 30% of your postgraduate studies has been financed by your tax. This principle can be extended further if you're clever about it. And this is where you go along to your employer and say, look, I want to go further into postgraduate study, but you're also going to benefit. So how about you pay 50% of my fees, 20,000 per year, and then give me a further bursary of 20,000 rands per year, and I will take that out of my by pre-tax salary. Then we will lead to a far higher saving, which can be even more than 50% of the cost of your postgraduate education. And this is a question of you having to go to your employer and convince them that there is value in postgraduate study. The question is this legal? And the answer to that is absolutely. The concessions are contained in the Income Tax Act. There are only two requirements, and they are that you pass your postgraduate studies and that there is an obligation to remain with your employer after you have graduated. Those are quite easily dealt with in the detail when granting aid. The question that remains is, why bother with postgraduate studies? Well, one of the reasons that we carry on with postgraduate studies is to increase your earning potential. And the return on investment on this is absolutely fantastic. If one looked at doing an MBA, for example, one is looking at increasing your income by, say, 30,000 Rand per month for 3 years of study, and that you would enjoy that for a period of 30 years. If one applies a 9% inflation factor to that and a 14% after-tax return, one finds that the value of that degree in cash terms today is 18.6 million Rand. There is no greater return on investment than improving yourself, and you do that by way of postgraduate study. This video was brought to you by the Sanlam Foundation.